Welcome to Getting.
You're live, man.
I am. The music was still playing in my ear. Welcome to Getting Defensive Weekend Primer presented. I am, and I was getting echo. I apologize. I am your host, J.J. Wenner, and welcome to part 4 of our free agency frenzy. Tonight, we talk about the top signings on the defensive side of the ball and why they matter to your team. With us tonight is my friend and Gridiron Ratings Senior IDP analyst. You can find him on Twitter at the IDP Tipster, Gary Van Dyke. Gary, what's going on, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate the friend too. We've actually had dinner together at the expo last year, so yeah, it's been a great working relationship for us since we met last year, man. And I appreciate you, JJ.
Well, I appreciate you, and I'm always ready to take it to the next step. I mean, we did go to we shared some wings, my friend.
Yes, we did.
Maybe we can.
Yeah. And who knew then?
This year.
Who knew then that we'd all be Gridiron Ratings?
Yeah, I know, right? Times have changed. Well, speaking of changing times, back once again with us, the author of the Key and Diagnose series. You can find him on Twitter at bjack83. Brandon Jackson. How are you doing, Mr. Jackson?
I'm doing great, JJ, man. Living on top of the world. I'm working with the tipster here. We're pumping out articles every week and providing, IDP fantasy gamers with contents about these IDP players, man. So they can go in the next season and be well prepared for their drafts.
And ready to dominate, Brandon.
Right. I'm excited to talk about these free agents, man. It's good to add context to these players with them moving in different spots and things. So should be great.
Yeah, and one of the things to remember is that like every time an offensive player gets traded, you see 50 articles come out. You don't see that when a defensive player gets signed by another team.
No. And food for thought here. I mentioned this Tuesday. We were talking about you, Brandon. Was your ears burning? Hopefully you caught the show. But either way, or the episode. But either way, when Brandon came on, he was really looking the right offense. But I had played with him enough. He had been in some tipster leagues, and I talked to him enough. I knew that the opportunity was there. I'm glad I sucked him over to the dark side. So down the road, don't be shocked if he ever, decides to. You're going to see that offensive mind come out too. So he's a great follow, everybody. Make sure you got him at bjack83, I think. Follow him on Twitter and subscribe for us here, please.
Yes. Before we jump into tonight's topic, Gary, make sure you like and subscribe below to get all of our most recent content. And remember, your path to the title starts with Gridiron Ratings. Now let's check on the news. Gary, this is actually just a segment for you. I'm sorry to report that Bobby Wagner has visited with the Rams. I'll let you have a moment to vent.
Yes. It's terrible. It's terrible news from an IDP perspective if he signs. I'm actually expecting, now on the West Coast, it's kind of in the evening. We could have breaking news at any time, possibly. But since it didn't happen a few hours, if it hadn't happened by now, I'm holding out hope. But the first thing I want to rant about is why is Bobby Wagner a free agent? It makes no sense why you can see all this offensive crap going on. Everybody's getting paid, but yet you've got a guy still playing Primus that just could come in and turn any defense around at any point. And yet he is still a free agent. Is nobody offered him? I don't know the story behind. Maybe they haven't even, been fielding offers right now. There's a million teams that could use them. Imagine them down there with the Chargers. Imagine them in Buffalo. Hey, Edmonds isn't bad, but Jets possibly.
Eagles.
He's looking for a contender, JJ. So I'm sorry, he has said that. I don't know if that's contender. And here's how I look at. I apologize, man, but there's the report. And is it reading between the tea leaves? Is it a contender who's contending to pay me? or am I going to go to a contender for beans? The Rams have a lot to take care of yet. They have extensions to do. They have a few things to wrap up before they go paying Bobby Wagner what he at least deserves. I don't think he's going to give him a big old home discount. I wouldn't think. I mean, it's got to be nice at LA, Seattle. It'd still be West Coast or something. But like I said, the Chargers, and imagine them in Miami. Imagine that now. There's a lot of teams that could really, that he could consider contenders as long as they're contending with the money. But the guy should not be out here floating around right now and screwing up what possibly could be the best breakout of the season with Ernest Jones. Yeah, you heard it here, folks. I said it. But either way, he's screwing with that right now. I'm losing sleep. I've got a deadline to name my keepers, and he was one of my linebacker keepers, Ernest Jones. And now I got to decide if I'm going to hang on and ride this out in case they do sign. If he doesn't sign, if he walks away without something. Yeah, I'm just a nervous wreck, JJ. I don't know what I'm going to do, and I still don't understand why defensive players, especially linebackers like Bobby Wagner, are overlooked so much. I just don't think – I know we've had some good signings with the edge rushers, but when it comes to the inside linebackers, I just don't think that they get the respect anymore that they really should. Bobby Wagner, as soon as he hit the market, he should have been swept up right then. They should have threw money all his way.
We talked a little bit during the season, Gare, about last offseason. Teams who waited and waited and waited and just signed these bargain basement inside linebackers were rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
They were rewarded because they didn't have to sink a lot of money into a high-priced free agent. And they got, 80% of the production?
Yeah, but rewarded in what sense? Because IDP and real-life NFL results are two different things. So
Devondre Campbell, though. Devondre Campbell was a last-minute signing.
Right. That might be the outlier. You know what I mean? I think there's outliers. Yes, there are. But on average, I mean, a lot of these guys that were walked in as free agents and were kind of productive by default. I'm not saying they were bad. I'm not saying they graded out bad. But, for NFL purposes and stuff, I don't think they put as much stock in the inside linebackers anymore. Everybody wants an edge rusher. They want shutdown corner, and they want safeties that can play like a linebacker. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, for me, and here all of a sudden, that's how Rams have been playing it for the last few years. I mean, they even, they used Corey Littleton up until his contract was up. He got a little expensive. They let him go, but they made him shine. He was productive. He was actually grading well back then too, but he was productive. But since then, they have Ernest Jones is the first time they really put any stock into anything and linebacker wise, so here, why all of a sudden the change of heart? I do get it. They're a flash team. They're making the moves. They're paying people. They traded for Von Miller last year. Traded for who else did they?
Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey last year. That's I love it. I love that aggressiveness. But leave Ernest Jones alone.
Well, they do plan on leaving him alone. Right behind Bobby Wagner once they sign him. No, I'm just kidding. But, another question for you. There was a time when every team had to have 2 to 3 inside linebackers, right? Mm-hmm. Because you started linebackers a lot more. With everybody working out of sub packages now.
Nickel rules.
Is that another reason why teams don't need as many?
Yeah. I think Brandon could agree. I mean, the nickel package is where it's at. That's why you're wanting these hybrid safeties, or you're wanting 3 safeties on the field. You want 5 to be DBs on the field. It's all about the pass rushing game. You got to get to the quarterback and disrupt him. You got to get into that backfield. It's like that. That whole situation has changed. And there are more DBs getting more snaps now. So there's a lot less inside linebackers that are getting full-time play. We have teams out there for years now that have been in the nickel and been rotating, like Kansas City, never really get enough snaps. I mean, between each other.
Chargers.
Chargers, yeah. Well, they've been hurt too, but that's a good example. New England, for years these guys have been, just not full time. 15 years ago, you had two guys getting 95% of the snaps guaranteed, and maybe a third with like 60%. Maybe 20 years ago. Well, I'm pretty old, but I don't know. What do you think? Brandon, do you think there's been a swing to this nickel so much that it's just costing the value of those linebackers, or?
Yeah, in some cases, like you were saying, you were naming off some teams that they were primarily doing nickel. They're doing some interesting things with these DBs. Look at the Ravens, the way they play Marlon Humphrey. They kind of put him like in a slot and at the line of scrimmage, and they blitz him and things. Even Javon Holland from Miami, they use him in interesting ways. He's a deep safety, but he'll come up in the line of scrimmage quite a few times, and they'll blitz him. They use him a number of ways. Kenny Moore from the Colts as well. They're trying to adjust to the passing games of the NFL. These three wide receiver sets. So we've seen a lot of big nickel and things of that nature, corners and safeties playing at the line of scrimmage in the box.
Yeah, in a league where you're seeing offenses get more and more diverse to challenge defenses, Belichick kind of led the way with having a hybrid defense. We're not going to run the same thing at you each week. We're going to keep you guessing on offense so you don't know where we're blitzing from. We're going to keep you as much on edge as you're trying to keep us, speaking from the defensive side. And linebackers have become the running backs, right? Like there was a time when you knew if you drafted the number one running back of a team, they were getting 85% of the carries.
Right.
It doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
There was a time when running backs used to get paid.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. I mean, to throw this in an aspect, folks, I mean, realistically, what do we have? Like, even if you're talking, I'm going to go with this. Nowadays, top tier, there's about 16 linebackers in the league on average, probably, give or take. Don't quote me. That get 90% plus of it, or 85% of it. 20 years ago, that was like 40. It was a big difference in what your pool is. The whole NFL changing how they approach the game, wanting the bigger scores, hampering the defensive players in the secondary. You can't touch, don't do this. All of that was to get bigger scores. And you can't blame them, get the ball. Who wants to watch? I remember the games in the 80s where I was watching 17-14, and I was excited because there was that much scoring. They scored 4 times or 3 times, it's like, wow, but, nowadays it's all about the numbers and stuff. And they've handcuffed the defense in some ways, and it's developed into this nickel package all the time, all these defensive backs. So, and we've had to learn to adjust on the fly. It's nice to have the edge rusher. Hopefully you guys are finding a way to use edge rushers in your lineup. But it's nice that, because of that too, that this edge rusher position is developed more. So, it's just, you got to utilize it right in your leagues.
Yeah, you have to stay ahead of the curve. If you can get in a league that goes with true position, that offers like dual position eligibility. I know Sleeper does a lot of that. You have to. You have to find a league that fits what the NFL is actually doing. The days of just starting one linebacker, one DL, and that's over.
Yeah, it used to be set them and forget them too. That's not happening anymore. Matchup strengths come into play so much more than what they used to. It's just there's no dominating. Bobby Wagner, one of the only, and here he is, free agent. Okay, we better get rolling, man.
All right, I'm worried about you and your trust issues, and
you know me.
I don't want them to get worse.
No.
I don't want them to get worse.
I don't think it's possible.
To move on from Ernest Jones, let's jump right into our free agents. First on the list, last week, we teased the signing of edge rusher Von Miller to the Bills. He signed a 6-year, $120 million contract with the Buffalo Bills. Now, it does have an out, so it's really like 3 years, $52.4 million. But still, gentlemen, Vaughn is going to be 33 when the season starts. Is this a good deal for the Bills, Brandon?
I think it is because Von Miller showed last season that he still can play at a pretty high level. You just look at his stats last season. The regular season, he finished with 9.5 sacks. But it's important to note that he got an ankle injury right before he got traded to the Rams. That was like in the middle of the season, and he really turned it on towards the end. I think he had like 4 sacks towards the end of the season, and then another 4 in the playoffs. So he finished with like 14.5 sacks when you look at the entirety of the season. So he has a veteran presence. The Bills had the number 1 ranked defense, number 1 ranked pass defense as well. 42 sacks was like top of the half in sacks, but they had a lot of the way they did it. They accumulated those sacks was by through a number of different players. They have a rotation. I think I was explaining that last week. They use a pretty heavy rotation, like 4 guys rotating in. They also use their corners and safeties to blitz as well. So it should be interesting how Von Miller is used with Buffalo Bills. He was averaging about like around 85% of snaps, last year, with Denver and LA Rams. But, moving to the Bills, they got guys rotating in and out, averaging about 50% of snaps. So he's going to have to be very efficient if they place him in that role, and they're probably going to place him in that role looking at his age. And plus, we got to remember that they've drafted defensive ends the past 2 years in the first and second round. Greg Rousseau last season, first round, they doubled down on defensive end last year. Greg Rousseau, and then the second round, they drafted Carlos Basham Jr. And before that, they drafted AJ Espinoza. So there's 3 young guys they drafted. They use high draft capital on. I think they're going to want to use those guys. So it looks like Von Miller is going to be in this rotation now. So it should be interesting if he can perform the way he has throughout his career and approach them double-digit sacks. I think it's possible because he's still playing at a high level. And plus, looking at the Buffalo squad, they have a great offense. So they're going to put teams in negative game script. And that's going to be beneficial to their pass rushers. What do you think, Gary?
It's nothing not to like about him being up there, especially in leagues that he's going to be designated as an edge rusher or a DL. The only question that I have is what you had brought up. We don't exactly know what his role is going to be. We don't exactly know how many snap counts he's going to get. He is older. Yes, they gave him a huge contract, but he's not going to probably be able to play up that contract. Well, it would be a miracle. And if he did, does that mean he's getting 20 snaps a game? So we got a lot to look at. Now, don't worry, he's still a tier 1 edge rusher option. He's going to get you some goodbye tackles along with those, probably just barely hitting the double-digit sacks. But I wouldn't be taking him at the top of the tier. I think I would go for Landry or Hassan Reddick or something like that even before I'd go Von Miller, just because of this year, because of the question of whether or not he's kind of a swing. You're not going to miss, but are you going to hit a grand slam or are you going to hit a double? It's kind of one of those plays.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to go with the guys who are going to get the highest snap counts. We hope that he's super efficient with it. He has the skill to be, but still, if he's only at 500 snaps over the course of the year, you'd rather the guy with 800.
Yeah. They paid him to pass rush. It's just a matter of, how many snaps. Is he only going to see it on the nickel downs? Is he going to be there? He should be there every down. We should plan on that. But that's kind of iffy. It's not. There's plenty of guys we know will be out there for those snaps, like Landry and such. So that's the only difference for me.
Yeah, I do like the situation though. With Greg across from Greg Rousseau, he's a high upside player. I like it. I think Buffalo's going to have a very good pass rush next year.
Yep.
I even like, Brandon, what they did with the interior line, adding Daquan Jones, Tim Settle to go with Ed Oliver. I know Ed Oliver isn't the supreme talent we hoped he would be, but they're adding a lot of solid players to that line.
Yeah, they really need to generate this pass rush completely. Jerry Hughes and Addison have not gotten it done for the last 2 to 3 years or whatever. Jerry Hughes has not gotten it done but like once in all of his career. So I mean, it was about time that they realized everybody else has got a pass rush but us. You know, between you and the Jets, or them and the Jets, I have no idea what's up with that.
Yeah, especially after they got their behind kicked in the semifinals, the divisional round against the Chiefs. The Chiefs put up like 500 yards on offense.
Yeah.
You know, so
I mean, you guys are in that division. You're looking over at Bill Belichick, who blitzes like a king and has, you know, multiple outside linebackers doing his bidding for him. But I don't know. But maybe we're going to turn around this year for the Jets, and hopefully we're going to turn around for the Buffalo, which, I mean,
with our new bookend defensive ends, Thibodeau across from Lawson. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to our best pass rush since John Abraham and Sean Ellis.
Oh, wow.
Yikes. Yeah, I know, right?
All right.
Yeah, let's go on. Speaking of big defensive linemen, defensive tackle Harrison Phillips signed a 3-year, $19.5 million contract with Minnesota. Now, the former Stanford Cardinal had a decent year for Buffalo last year, registering 51 combined tackles, but only 1 sack. Now, this was far and away his best year. But what do you think we can expect from the big man now that he's in Minnesota, Gary?
Pretty much I would hope how he ended last year. You know, he missed his sophomore year. He didn't play much last year. Injury, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. I just know he's not been a relevant player up to this point until like halfway through the season last year, the last third. He really got some playing time. He really turned it on. So hopefully he's going to carry that momentum over. He graded out well. He's a great run stopper. He's not one of these guys that's going to get through and put a lot of pressure and get after the quarterback unless he keeps developing. I mean, he's been in the league, 3 to 4 years, something like that. And
this will be his 5th year coming up.
Right. And he's basically only played maybe a season and a half's worth of games, something along that line, at least starting. So I'm going to approach it that he has defensive tackle 2 upside, and I'm not looking at him a deal. I'm not playing him a deal. He's probably not going to pad that box with sacks.
Yeah, he's a definite IDL or DT required league starter. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing anything special in Phillips, Brandon?
No, not at all. I agree with Gary all the way. I think his role is mainly going to be the run stopper because they were 26 against the run. They needed an interior defensive lineman to stop the run. That's pretty much what he's done in his career. He has limited sack upside. I think he has like less than 5 sacks in his career. So that's pretty much what they're bringing him in to do. I wouldn't consider him unless it's like a defensive tackle required league. I mean, look at the defensive tackle landscape. I mean, you want players like Aaron Donald and DeForest Buckner, those elite guys. And I mean,
Grady Jarrett.
Yeah, Grady Jarrett. There's some other guys. Quentin Williams.
Not too many though. Not too many.
No, it's not. It's almost like the tight end landscape on offense, man. It's
exactly.
Like one of the top 5 guys. If not, then I mean, you're not going to get any work.
Tear drops off.
Right.
All right. Well, then let's move to a guy we talked about a couple weeks ago. He's back. Safety Jayron Kearse re-signed with Dallas, 2 years, $10 million. Now, knowing how volatile the safety position is in IDP from year to year, Brandon, where do you think he's going to fall after his safety 11 season last year?
I think he'll probably fall within the DB2 range. Just looking at, I mean, he has a very good role, plays along the line of scrimmage fairly often. His production kind of trailed off towards the end, though. I was looking at his tackle rate is only 9.9%. He had a great missed tackle rate, 3.6. He finished like a top 12 DB, but there's some other young and up and coming guys that I'm more interested, like Cam Curl, Jalen Thompson, Kyle Duggar, Jonathan Abram. Those guys have they have a better tackle rate than Javon Curse. But I think he's going to be solid, like a solid D2. But I wouldn't expect another DB1 finish.
What about you, Gare?
Oh, I'm all in. I'm all in on Curse. If I get the opportunity to get him on my squad, I'm doing it. I think he can repeat last year. He's come in. He's playing that canoe kneel position that the defensive coordinator when he was a head coach was it Dan Quinn was in Atlanta. I love it. I wrote about him a while back and the scenario that he would sign with them after a breakout last year. He kind of had a little mini breakout the year before with the Lions, but they didn't see to keep him around. He graded out well. As long as he's in that position, I'm putting him in my top tier, and I'll be happy to get him. I think he's a tier 1 guy.
All right. Well, let's move on. Edge rusher Lorenzo Carter signed a 1-year, $3.5 million contract with Atlanta. Now, last year, the Falcons had a league-low 18 sacks, beating the second-place finisher by 11. Weesh. Carter should at least replace Dante Fowler's putrid production. But, I mean, how much more can we expect from this former Bulldog?
I wouldn't be shocked if Carter would actually break out, okay? I don't think that the Giants have used him adequately as a edge rusher almost his entire career. Now, the first couple of seasons it did, but after that, I kept waiting for him to break out. I kept waiting for him to get his, and they changed his role. It's like, let's look here real quick because, I mean, the amount of rushing that he did with the Giants just tapered off. So in 2018 and 2019, he was blitzed. I apologize, I'm a little bit off. 2019, he only blitzed 32 times. And 2019, I said 2018, 32 times. 2019, 78 times. Now that only resulted in 4.5 sacks and some, so many QB hits. It wasn't that good, but it gave you some upside. Then they followed it up the following year by not making him the primary rusher. They was using Falcaro and a combination of a couple other guys. I think Marcus Golden was there for a year. Something went back for a year or something along those lines. But he's still getting the combined tackles for an outside linebacker. He's just not being used as a blitzer. Since then, in 2020 and 2021, he only had 25 and 20. And last year, he only was blitzed 16 times. That's ridiculous. The guy's been playing. He's got a little bit of an injury history, not too severe. Now, going to Atlanta, wiping the slate clean. If they blitz the guy, if they put him in there and say, get the dang ball every time, and he could have a little breakout this year. We might actually see him borderline double-digit sacks. The guy is actually graded out well. He came into the league he as a good edge rushing prospect. I just think it's been realistically how the Giants have used him has held him back a little bit. So if I can, I'm just keeping an eye on him as an edge rusher play. I'm not playing him at linebacker. I'm keeping him at edge rusher. or possible DL play. I'm going to keep my eye on it. If I have the room for that deep of DL or edge rusher, then yeah, sure, I want to tag him on here. I think his upside could be into at least, he's not been playable for years. Nobody is going to get Lorenzo Carter unless you're in some 50-team league or something, So he's not been playable in 14 and 12, not even really for bye weeks. I think he's coming into play this year, at least as a DL2, possible edge rusher 2 tier. I think that could be his floor. So we'll see if his ceiling's any higher.
I mean, there's definitely not a lot of competition for him there, Brandon, right?
No. The Falcons, they need edge rusher help really bad. GM Terry Fontenot identified his edge rusher as their number one priority. They cut what's his name?
Dante Fowler.
Fowler. He only had 4.5
Should have cut him a long time ago.
Yeah, they're searching for somebody who can provide them some type of sack production. Looking at Lorenzo Carter, he's still young, 26 years old. I believe he's from Atlanta. So, it's a feel-good story. He gets to move to a new location. He wasn't overly productive with the Giants, but he's going to have an opportunity with the Falcons. I believe the Falcons, they're probably going to draft an edge rusher. I wouldn't be surprised if they double down at edge rusher, kind of like what the Colts and Bills did with Pay and Odiingbo, and then the Bills with Roseau and Basham Jr. Because they need edge rusher help really bad. 18 sacks, that was by far the lowest in the league. So I'm looking at Carter. I'm not really looking to draft him. He's just the kind of guy I'll just keep on my radar and see what the situation is and how he does to begin the season and pretty much go from there.
Yeah, they definitely have to add some more talent in that edge room.
I would love to see them.
Chart, there's not much there.
Yeah, I'd love to see him. At this point, go get Clowney. Go get Clowney, stick him in there next to Grady Jarrett, and then you got Carter, and then draft, whatever. I don't know how many more. There might be another level Carter free agent out there they could bring in, but I don't think it's going to be the type of player they'll go after. They'll probably go more, if they do in the draft, they'll go for more of your traditional defensive end instead of an outside linebacker rusher like him, like Carter. Possibly.
It's going to be hard for them to sign a veteran edge rusher. I believe they're over the cap. I checked Spotracs. They're like $1 million over the cap. So it's going to be difficult for them to resign.
Have they dealt with Deion Jones's or Grady Jarrett's contracts yet? They've already dealt with those?
I'm not completely sure, but they're going to have to do something because they have to clear some cap room to sign their rookies. They have a lot of draft picks.
Right. Just curious.
Yeah, lots of dead money with Matt Ryan leaving. All right, last player we have, our fifth free agent, another Falcons signing. This time it's one of their own. Safety Erik Harris. Now, we're not quite sure what he signed. It's not being reported anywhere yet. I just double checked. But he signed a 1-year deal with Atlanta. Last year when healthy, he was a pretty solid starter, at least IDP wise. Nothing flashy, but steady. Brandon, can we expect more of the same from him now that he's back in Atlanta?
Well, I don't think so. I believe the trade of Matt Ryan pretty much signified that the Falcons are rebuilding. I know the GM, he kind of like prided himself. He made a comment during the combine that, the big, the elephant in the room was that, are we rebuilding or are we competing? We want to do both. But after they traded Ryan, it pretty much cemented that they're in a rebuilding process. And they mentioned during their offseason presser, they're looking to develop younger players. And Erik Harris was the starting free safety last year. He got injured like after week 12, and then Jalen Hawkins came in and took over. So I'm thinking that they brought him in as depth, a backup. They're going to be looking to play and develop their young safeties. Jalen Hawkins, he's going to his third year, so he has upside and room for growth. Erik Harris, at this point in his career, there's no upside with him, no room for growth. He's just a steady veteran. Um, you just look at his career. I mean, he came in. What was it? He came out of college 2012. He didn't latch on to an NFL team to 2016. He didn't develop a role until like 2019, 2020, and 2021. He went. Those were the first 2 years he went into a training camp as the starter. So to me, I don't think he's a threat, especially not to Richie Grant. I think one of our Twitter followers retweeted a post showing that Richie Grant was a backup and Erik Harris and Jalen Hawkins were the starting safeties. I don't believe that's going to be the point. That's not going to be the case. I believe they're going to go forward with Jalen Hawkins and Richie Grant and develop these two young safeties, especially Richie Grant. He was drafted 40th overall in the second round. High upside player. You just look at his college production his sophomore year, over 100 tackles and 6 interceptions. He was a Jim Thorpe semifinalist. He's a good player, solid player. I looked at him on film, the limited snaps that he played. He was great in coverage, very versatile. That's why they put him in the slot. Once Isaiah Muhammad, I believe his name was, the slot corner that got injured. They put him in the slot because he's a great coverage corner, and he can also defend and run. So I'm liking Richie Grant. I wrote him up like a few weeks ago. I'm very excited about Richie Grant. So I don't think he affects Grant at all. Harris is probably going to be the backup. They're going to go forward with Jalen Hawkins and Richie Grant. So that's what I believe.
Gary, you on board?
I'm not as confident about Hawkins as Brandon. Not getting defensive about it, but it's kind of one of those calls that I really don't care which one gets it. I'm not necessarily focusing on that free safety position until I see it produce, at least IDP wise. Harris didn't grade out very well last year. Hawkins didn't grade out very well last year. Harrison just has his presence. If it wasn't for John Gruden and Matt Maylock, we wouldn't know who Erik Harris was, basically. So, I mean, he's a guy. I'm not saying he's not a good IDP guy to go after, but I am not, just based off of him being a free safety and the questions of Hawkins being there. I don't think it affects Grant at all. Grant's going to be what he's going to be. I think he definitely walks in there starting. But Hawkins, I think it's Harris's to lose. Hawkins is going to have to outplay him in camp. And so far, he's struggled a little bit. But he's still young. Third year? Did you say third year for Hawkins?
Right. He's going into his third year. He was a fourth-round draft pick, 2020.
Well, if we know anything nowadays, that window is definitely not shut on him. So we'll just see how it goes. It bodes well for him for the future. If he doesn't get to start this year, then it bodes well for him that possibly Harris was just brought back in to teach him something, help him along another year. We'll see. I'm just not as high on him as Brandon is.
Yeah, I mean, just put it in the context. I mean, they're rebuilding, so I just figured that that Hawkins had the inside track.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's all about the gut call, Brandon, man. Hey, look, don't get all defensive on me, man. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's what it's about.
All right. Well, gentlemen, those were the 5 free agents. Is there anybody else we wanted to talk about before we get to final thoughts? Any moves out there that have stuck out to you? I mean, without talking about the Dirty O and big Chiefs trade and...
I don't know. I'm kind of excited about talking Baltimore with Brandon tomorrow on an IDP dime job in the morning. That's going to be interesting. I don't know. I'm kind of I'm neutral this year. It's been such a flash in the pan with all these huge moves, trades. I mean, Tyreek Hill, come on, really? Did we really expect that? Did anybody actually see that coming? But either way, at least I didn't. I don't know. I couldn't find anything about it. But I mean, now look at Miami. I mean, just they got a solid defensive line in Miami. They got one building there. They're doing really well down there. The secondary, I really like those safeties coming in. I'm not sure what they have at cornerback. Do you, Brandon?
Byron Jones, Xavier Howard.
Could be worse. So I'm not real thrilled about the linebacker core, but they love Baker, so you got to kind of roll with that. But I think Bobby Wagner looked really pretty down there. He'd like that sun. He'd been in Seattle. Come on, man, go over. It rains in Miami all the time too, doesn't it?
Yeah, that'd be a great signing for Miami. I think right now they're starting Landon Collins. He's nothing special. Bob Wagner, he's a stud, man. He's one of the best players in the National Football League. He'd be fitting nicely right there in the middle next to Jerome Baker.
Yeah.
I like it.
And we can't forget, if Bobby Wagner's not going to be playing in Seattle, what are they going to do to replace him on that field up there? So we know Brooks is a lock. Will Brooks move over? I think it's a good possibility we see Brooks in the middle of this defense this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted somebody or possibly went and got somebody out of free agency after the draft, say a Kaiser White if he's still free. There's a couple of others that could be a possibility. Who knows what Pete Carroll's up to? I don't know. Is he trying to win this year? Yeah. If I was
with whom?
If I was Metcalf, man, I'd done been like, look, man, I twisted my ankle. I ain't going to be there this year.
Yeah, I don't think it's up to Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll always wants to win. I think the GM recognized, the team is going down. It's time to rebuild. I think it's pretty.
Well, I mean, isn't he in his 80s?
He's pretty old. Yeah.
Well, he's the oldest coach in the league, is he not?
I think he might. Yeah, he might be on soccer or all the sports. He might have it all. Yeah, I mean, realistically, look it up. He might be. I mean, how many 90-year-old coaches are out there?
90. Now, come on. He's 70. 70. He was born in 1951.
Yeah. Well, besides Grandpa coaching the minor league or grandkids' little league team, I bet he's one of the oldest around.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised they brought him back. I'm pretty surprised they brought him back.
How much rebuild has he got left in him? Maybe he's just trying to clean up the mess and try to get something going before he rides off.
Or they'll probably use him as a scapegoat and fire him next year.
Yeah, right. Hey, pay me. I'll be a goat.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know what's going on up there.
Right.
Now, do you think that with the move for Hill, that Miami is the front runner in the AFC East? Did they move ahead of the Bills with that offense?
No, I don't believe so. I'm not a big fan of Tua.
Yeah.
Just looking at his body of work, he looks more like a game manager. I don't see any upside for him to really grow into this top tier quarterback. I mean, the moves around him, they definitely preparing him to be in a good position. So there's no more excuses for Tua. He needs to get it done. He needs to lead them to the playoffs. I think they'll be looking to move on because they had a chance to get Deshaun Watson, and that fell through. I was disappointed, me being a Dolphin fan. I remember the Dan Marino era. And ever since he's left, we haven't had an elite quarterback. I don't think Tua can be elite. So I still got Buffalo as the better team. And, Dolphins are probably going to be second. They're going to be competing with the Patriots for second place in the AFC East.
I'm putting all three of those right there. It could be any one of them. Yeah, I can't sleep, man. I almost feel like I like the Patriots this coming year, even over Buffalo. It's Bill Belichick. He doesn't take too many years off from not really just kicking ass. So, doing whatever. So with the second-year quarterback, and I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if it got better. I guess he hasn't really done anything on offense though. So
he lost.
No, and he lost his offensive coordinator. So
yeah, right.
They're kind of changing offensive philosophies. I know they told Jacob, their fullback, who they let go, that they didn't plan on using a fullback anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely signaling a change in offensive scheme.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if they have the offensive firepower to keep up with a Buffalo or even a Miami with Tua.
Yeah,
Secondary,
you're probably right.
The secondary took a big hit, losing J.C. Jackson to the Chargers. J.C. Jackson graded out as like a top 5 corner last year. He had 8 interceptions, second in the league. And I believe he had.
All right, you're talking me down off the edge. Maybe I should. I haven't been keeping up on the Dirty O though, so I wasn't for sure. And then as I was speaking, I was like, wait a minute, I haven't seen nothing about them doing anything. I did see that about them dropping the fullback too. So scratch that. I would have to say, yeah. On paper, looking at it right now, I mean, it's got to be Miami or Buffalo. I do think Buffalo keeps the edge because Josh Allen's been elite for a little bit here. So. But yeah, I get it. I don't know about your Jets, man. Your woeful Jets.
And by the way, Mr. Belichick, the genius Gary, is about to turn 70.
Is
so
it? Yeah, but he's not doing what Pete Carroll's doing.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see what happens this year.
Right.
All right, gentlemen. Well, it is time for final thoughts, time to let the listeners know where they can find us and anything that we have on our minds. Gary, you are up first.
Just can't wait to get tomorrow. Like I said, we're going to talk about Baltimore. I don't know. I can't think straight until I find out Bobby Wagner left without a contract.
I'll let them know where to find you. He's at the IDP Tipster on Twitter. Expect some sad tweets from him tomorrow if something would break about Bobby Wagner. Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at bjack83. I need to get my Twitter follower count up. I got a little over 200, but it's okay. I know the followers will come. I'm going to keep grinding out here with Gary. We're working hard out here. We're one of the hardest working content creators in IDP. We're pumping out articles every week, me and Gary, and we're on these podcasts, twice a week, doing the dime drop. We're discussing the IDP relevant players for each squad. So, follow the content and everything, so that you can be prepared. And we're gonna help you guys win championships this year.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me on Twitter at JJ Wenner. Thank you to Gary and Brandon for joining me tonight. Thank you to everybody, as always, for tuning in. Make sure you tune into the Getting Defensive podcast every week for your off-season IDP content. And check out Gridiron Ratings for everything else you need for the other side of the ball. And remember, your path to the title starts with Gridiron Ratings. Have a good night.